Good morning, my beautiful friends. This is your wake up call with Maui Paul. I am Maui Paul. We are here today to say some nice things about ourselves. And happy Friday to you. We got a lot of folks here. Good morning, Janet, Waleed, Grant, Dan, Lauren, Robert, April, Frank, Dennis. It is good to see you guys here today. We are once again here to say some nice things about ourselves. And we're going to be doing that with my I Am deck. This being Friday, we're going to go through a nice empowering affirmation. Good morning, Shauna. We're going to go through a nice empowering affirmation today, and then we are going to review the cards for the week. So it's going to be a great day. Good morning, Veda. Good to see you today. It's going to be a wonderful day. We're going to get ourselves set up for success. The words that we use to describe ourselves are the way that we treat other people in this world. Is the way we treat ourselves, and the way that we treat ourselves directly correlates to the way that we treat others, which informs the kinds of opportunities we have, the types of relationships we have, etc. And so we are going to do this. This is a superpower, and we are going to develop it today. Good morning, Amanda. Happy Friday to you as well. So without further ado, we'll pull a card. I'll ask you if you are the affirmation on that card, and we're going to say it out loud. I am that affirmation. As we say these things out loud, we get to hear them. So not only do we have to engage our brain to say them, but we also have to engage our brain to hear them. And this sort of feedback loop is incredibly positive. All right, so let's have some fun by saying that today I am wise. Excuse me. I am wise. I apply my knowledge with discernment. So I am wise. I apply my knowledge with discernment. Are you wise? You are wise. You apply your knowledge with discernment. All right, I'm going to write that down in the comments as Amanda has done, and I encourage you to write the same thing down. As we write these things down, it is another level of faith. So, when we hear somebody else say something, it is one level of belief. And when we say it ourselves, it's an exponentially better element of belief or level of belief. But when we write it down, we have to engage our fine motor skills. My brain has to think about that thought and hold it for long enough that I can actually type it out on a keyboard and or write it down in a journal, which is something else that I do. But we are wise today. We apply our knowledge with discernment. Education is what you know, and knowledge is what you do with it. And so as we go through our day, we're going to have all kinds of opportunities to apply what we know. And, wisdom is applying it with discernment, of saying sometimes it's important to apply what we know, and other times it's important to just be quiet about that or apply something different that we know. Wisdom is just one of those things that gives us a tremendous advantage in life, because wisdom requires that we stop for just a moment and consider what we're doing, consider how we're acting or how we're reacting or how we're responding. Most people do not wait in between receiving an input and then processing it. But the fact is that our brains are acting on around about 50,000 pieces of information in any given moment. And yet we are consciously aware of maybe 30 or 40 of these pieces of information. The vast majority of what goes into our brains is handled subconsciously. And so wisdom is really all about pausing for just a moment. It doesn't take any special skills to be wise, except the ability to pause and to say, okay, based on my life experiences, based on what I know, based on what I believe to be true, this is the best way to handle the situation that has come up. So I'll tell you one about work, because this story often comes up when I talk about wisdom. But so I was working at the time at the Hawaii Fudge Company, and we had a guy come in. I mean, this guy, his face was red before he even came in. And our store at the time was like just a little bit smaller than my living room is right now, because rent on Maui is expensive. And so our store was nothing more than much of a like a little walk-up counter. This guy walks in with his family and starts absolutely screaming at me. And like, I don't know why he's screaming at me. I'd never seen this guy before. But as it turns out, he had been sold some subpar product. Well, I, I I looked at the receipt on the product. I was like, well, do you have your receipt? Let me see the product. The product was indeed way below the standards. And I knew what he paid for it too. And let me tell you, I'd have been just as mad as him. Of course, I probably wouldn't have been screaming at a random counter employee like he was. But you know what? Like, I had some empathy for him, and I thought to myself, okay, I can apply some wisdom here. I was like, obviously I'm going to get this guy some new product, because the stuff that he had in his bag was obviously way below our standards. The person who had sold it to him had likely pulled stuff accidentally out of our like, our reject bin to sell it to him. But so the first thing that I did was I just listened, and then I emphatically agreed with him. I said, you have absolutely been served something that is not to our standards. I'm sorry. Let me make it right. Let me make it right now. And I started just pulling out, like, I replaced the stuff that he had bought, and then I threw on a couple other things. And all of a sudden, this angry, red-faced man who was embarrassing his family on their vacation suddenly got very, very calm, because I recognized that all he really was looking for was somebody to listen to him, that he didn't have many people listening to him in life, and that he had a story going on in his head. I recognized it, that everybody was out to get him, that everybody was out to screw him, and that the subpar product that he was holding in his hands was evidence that the person who had sold him the stuff had it out for him personally. It was plain from his mannerisms. It was plain from the words that he was using. I could see his paradigms, and it that's something that just comes from experience. And so I solved his problem. I gave him not just his stuff back, but I also threw in some extra things, and I said that we are sorry, and all of a sudden he became my best friend and walked out having bought even more stuff. He's like, well, maybe I should get another pound while I'm here. I'm like, yeah, maybe you should. And hey, why don't we just make absolutely damn sure that the pound of fudge that you're buying from me after coming in to scream at me, make sure that pound of fudge is to your satisfaction before you leave. And the reason that I relate that story is because it would have been very easy for me to just react and just close up and yell right back at him and be like, you asshole, you don't, like, I'm over here working for $20 an hour, and you're here on Maui, which is not a lot of money at the time, but I'm over here being a reasonably low paid service worker on Maui, and you are coming in and giving me a ration of shit for no reason, and I didn't even do it, and I've never met you, and I didn't sell it to you. And so I could have been really angry, but if I'd have been really angry, then nothing would have happened. The resolution would have been terrible. He would have just walked off mad, left a terrible review on the internet, and my boss would be calling me about it later. Now, of course, after I looked at the receipt, I had a second opportunity to apply some discernment and some wisdom, because the person who had sold this guy all this subpar stuff was my boss. And so I looked at it and I said, well, I could tell my boss about this, but that's not going to change a damn thing. I could be mad at my boss that I had to deal with this terrible client, because of her negligence. But instead I said, I'm not going to talk to my boss about this at all. I'm just going to write this stuff off, and I'm going to be done with it. And I'm just going to inform the folks that I work with, hey, let's make sure we don't do this. And so I just wrote up a really quick email to my coworkers, which I CC'd my boss on, and said, hey, just FYI, the stuff in this bucket is fudge that has gone rancid or bad, or it's old, or for whatever reason. Hey, let's just make sure that we don't sell this to clients. We accidentally sold one of these to a client, and they returned it, and I fixed it, but I didn't mention who did the selling. And my boss called me up, and she said, oh, thank you so much for doing that. That you handled that really well. She also didn't ask me who did the selling. I think maybe she might have known that it was her. but I didn't have to call her out on it. And that's wisdom at work. That's discernment at work. That's like, yeah, I had knowledge, but the way that I applied it was different. And so that's how I did it. But every time somebody talks about wisdom, that's a story that I bring up, because I had lots of information, but I didn't necessarily have to apply that information. Instead of applying the information about how to win an argument, I applied the information about how to satisfy somebody who was unhappy. And instead of applying the information that I had by calling out my boss and saying, "Hey, you're an idiot. Don't do this. Why on earth would you behave this way? Stop it. Like, you train us not to do it, and now you're doing it yourself." Instead of doing that, I simply pointed out that there was an oopsie made, and that we solved the oopsie, and that we need to write off $34 worth of fudge, because I gave this guy $34 worth of fudge by way of apology. And it really did. It turned into a TripAdvisor review, as a lot of service interactions do. And it turned into a 5-star TripAdvisor review, where the guy said I was going to give 1 star, but then Paul helped me out, and and really resolve these things, and I'm grateful, and I'll go back. I'm like, perfect. Ultimately, that was much more valuable than the $34 at retail of fudge that we lost. That probably cost us $4 to make. And so it's important for us to apply what we know with discernment. So let's go over the cards for the previous couple days. Let's take a little journey through the week. It being Friday, we're gonna just do a quick recap, and let me know how these cards have affected you this week. Because on Monday, we affirmed that we are committed, and that we dedicate ourselves wholeheartedly. And indeed, we have to dedicate ourselves wholeheartedly, because in doing so, it's really the only way to get things done. We have to be a little bit obsessed with the stuff that we're doing, and we have to commit. We have to be. We have to make sure that we are that we remain steadfast in just doing a little bit every single day. And I noticed in my life that when I commit to something, it really grows. But when I commit to 5 different things, none of them get anywhere. So on Tuesday, we affirmed that we are unique, and that our experiences bring a distinct perspective. And when we commit to the things that we are good at, and we commit in a way that is honoring of our uniqueness, then we then we recognize that the way that we've lived life, that our experiences do indeed bring a distinct perspective. There is only one of us, and that one of us is the only one that can really accomplish the goals and the dreams that live inside of our heads. On Wednesday, we affirmed that we are curious, and that we explore the world with wonder. And that's what makes us unique. Our curiosity makes us unique. And indeed, the best people that I've ever met, the coolest people that I've ever met, are folks who are just continually curious, always want to know what's behind that next door, always interested in following the path to the to its logical conclusion. And Frank, you're right. I is equal to us. We are. I am curious. We are curious too. Every single one of these I am cards can very easily be a we are card too. In fact, in the background, I actually have a whole deck of we are cards, because a lot of people, I am is a beautiful affirmation for us to say ourselves, which is why I use the I am cards for this morning broadcast. But a lot of people respond better to you are, because a lot of people just can't really muster up I am. It's hard to say these things sometimes, especially when we think that we're lying to ourselves. And when we recognize that these are inherently true about ourselves, that's when they gain their power. But a lot of people are very much at the you are stage, where they have to be told by the card that they are what they are. So that you are curious, you explore the world with wonder. That's why I transition into you language and we language as I explain these cards. On Thursday, we recognize that we are accomplished, and that our achievements reflect persistent determination. We're accomplished about the things that we're curious about, and as we get accomplished about the things that we're curious about, it makes us unique people and allows us to be committed to the things that are most important to us. Recognize that we are wise and that we apply our knowledge with discernment. So as we go through the world with curiosity, and as we accomplish the things that are important to us, and as that creates a unique person inside of us and allows us to commit to the things that matter, we recognize that we can apply that knowledge with discernment, which takes us to Saturday, which is, of course, that we are awesome. Awesome Saturday. It is a regular Sabbath in my world. Awesome Saturday. We recognize our inherent value and worth. The reason that we do all of this, underpinning everything that we do here, is that we recognize our inherent value and worth. We recognize that we are people who are worthy of being developed, that we are people who are worthy of the dreams that are inside of our head, that we are worthy of the relationships that we have, that we are worthy of the successes that we accomplish, that we are worthy of the life experiences that we have, that we are worthy of affection and attention and love, and that we deserve it. And as we recognize this, it comes to us, and that's really the message of the wake up call. My friends, I will talk to you on Sunday at 9 p.m. We're going to pull 5 more cards. And yeah, I'm going to play around with the formatting a little bit next week. So something that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have a question of the day. I have one built into my video. Yeah, one of them built into my video. But I'm actually going to have like a different question of the day that relates to the card that we're going to pull. And I would love for you guys to engage with the question of the day prior to me coming on. So my goal is to just flip things on about 5 minutes beforehand to allow people to gather, and then we'll go in with the question of the day. We'll do the same we'll do the same affirmations, and really my goal is to continue to increase engagement. The engagement on this show is just off the charts, I have to say. Like yesterday I had 71 comments on a 20-minute show with like 12 people. How cool that is. So thank you for coming on by. You guys are amazing. So let's see about what your perspective is on the I Am Wise card. It appears, let's see here, we have tons and tons of people saying hello today. I love seeing the whole line of you guys writing down these affirmations. You're doing it for yourself. Like, this is a gift you give to you. Let's see. So April, or let's see. I'm sorry, Amanda. Amanda says that discernment is a great word. I practice this so hard every day, and I find more peace in waiting to see what I was going to say. If what I was going to say is really beneficial in the moment. Tell me about it. I found that as I study organizations and as I work with people who are higher in the org chart, that the higher somebody gets in an org chart, the more time it takes for them to respond, but never more than a couple seconds. It does not take more than a few seconds to be discerning. Just ignore the first reaction and then compose a response. Susan says pausing is her weakness. Yeah, it's a weakness for a lot of people. It's so easy to just go with our initial feeling, because our initial feeling is built on all of these shortcuts and that we have inside of our brain. And then something happens and we immediately react to it. But if we just take a couple seconds, we will be able to respond, and the response is always so much better. One of my mentors gave me advice once, and he told me, he said, when you're really mad at somebody, write them a letter about how mad you are, and then don't send the letter. He's like, but do keep the letter around, because you're going to find it later on, and you're going to be so grateful that you didn't send it. You're going to find it and then read it and be like, oh my goodness, I'm so grateful I didn't send that. Janet says, knowledge is knowing something to say. Wisdom is knowing if, when, and how to express that knowledge. Yep, absolutely. That is discernment in a nutshell. Oh, Robert. Optimism is a glass half full. Pessimism is a glass half empty. Wisdom is knowing it's pee and you shouldn't drink it. Yeah, don't do that. Let's see here. All right, guys. Well, I am going to depart for the until Sunday at 9 p.m. I'm going to head over to the coffee shop. If you know, come and visit me at the coffee shop. And I will talk to you guys, on Sunday at 9 p.m. We'll do a nightfall with Maui Paul. Until then, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate all the support through the week. Thank you to the guy for sharing this and for telling your friends and for just increasing the reach of this broadcast. Y'all are amazing. I've been talking for 22 minutes, so just wanted to remind you I love you and care about you. We'll talk to you on Sunday at 9 p.m. and then 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. Until then, aloha from paradise.